You see are going to a different setup. There's not a microphone that's working at the club, so we're going to have to be fairly quiet. Serving has been quiet also. And in the back of the room, there's political information available. In the case of the Trump-Pence signs, those are for sale, and they're $5 each. So please do not take those unless you're going to pay for them. The rest of the political information, of course, is available for you to take. Okay. Okay.
My name is Juwan Harper. This is really the last in the series of primary debates that's been hosted by the Republican Women's Club. The first was the U.S. House seat, then the sheriff's race, and then the county commissioners last week. So I do appreciate this opportunity to moderate these events. I'd like to ask Chris Joseph to stand. He is a U.S. House Representative 1 candidate. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So please feel free to talk to him afterward. He's got material there. Are there any other candidates here other than Representative Hill? Okay. Representative Broxson was unable to attend today. However, his daughters Jill and Julie are here, so please feel free to speak to them afterward if you have any questions for him or anything that you would like for them to tell him. So. We are ready to begin. So Representative Hill, if you could please come sit at the front. Again, I do ask that you just keep the noise to a minimum since we do not have microphones. Any recordings, I just ask that you record it in its entirety and post accordingly.
Is it okay if I stand, or do I need to get in the microphone? Okay.
All right, with this race, this is a little different, well, actually a lot different than the ones that we've moderated before. With your U.S. Seat that Jeff Miller is vacating, there was no incumbent. So all the candidates were asked questions that were specific to the seat itself in the U.S. House. The same with the sheriff. There were no incumbents. The candidates were asked general law enforcement questions that dealt with Santa Rosa County only. And then the county commission race, the only incumbent was Don Salter. District 1 was vacant, and District 5, Mr. Lynchard, he was the only candidate, so he was reelected by default, if you will. So those questions with District 1 and District 3 county commissions were again designed in such a way that it didn't give the incumbent an advantage. With this debate, the goal behind it was different because it's rare that you've got two exact positions, if you will, running for the exact position, the same position. So there were two state representatives, District 1 and District 3, Mr. Broxson being District 3 and Mr. Hill being District 1. Their records over the last few years were not the same, but they would have voted on the same issues. So what I had done is just chose several votes that they cast, and I was going to ask them about that because my belief is the best indication of future behavior is past behavior. So I only would have stuck with the time that Representative Broxson was, or Representative Hill was elected, because that's the time that they were in the House at the same time. So, however, Representative Broxson is unavailable, but I am going to ask Representative Hill these same questions, and then he can address some of the issues that have come up with their voting record. And to begin, though, I will ask you, what do you believe is the constitutional role of the Florida Senate and your role as a Florida senator if you are elected?
Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to start with some opening comments.
No.
No? Okay. Just answer the question. Now, what was the role of the Constitution?
What is the constitutional role of the Florida Senate, and what is the role of a Florida state senator?
Well, the Constitution is the framework for how we should govern. I like to bring what I call good public policy as I make my decisions on what should be best serving my constituents. And for me, good public policy consists of four things. And number one, is it constitutional? Number two, is it fiscally responsible? Number three, will it fix a problem? And number four, is it morally sound? So I use that first statement, is it constitutional, as the framework for how I believe we should bring good public policy. And the reason why I start off with the Constitution is because we have a legacy of military service in my family. My grandfather served in the Army, infantry, World War II. He was part of a brigade called the Harlem Hellcats, which served with the French brigade, and at the end of the war, they were awarded the nation's highest honor, the Cross de Guerre, for their service. My father served in the Air Force 26 years, and he served in Vietnam. I had the honor of attending the Air Force Academy and graduating in 1980, and I served 10 years active duty during peacetime. And I have a son right now, Jonathan, United States Marine Corps, infantry, rifleman, that as I speak right now is deployed at a forward operating base. So that legacy of military service, each one of us said the same oath to this document, our Constitution. It says, I do solemnly swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And I took that oath without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And any military veteran who is here, who has just heard my voice, you will recognize that once you completed your service, no one told you you are no longer bound by that oath. It is a lifetime commitment. And I also said that oath when I had the honor of being elected as a House member, a very similar oath, to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution and the Florida Constitution. So because of that, that is the framework for how I make all of my decisions, and should I have the honor of being selected into the Florida Senate, to be able to use that as I make my decisions to bring you what I call good public policy. Those are my opening comments.
Any comments?
Did I answer the question, Madam Chair?
You did not, actually.
Say it again and I will answer
No,
the.
you get one shot.
Okay.
For these next four, if you could keep your answers succinct, that would be good, because I will open it up to the members.
Will do, Madam Chair.
No rambling. Because I will cut you off next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, House Bill 225, All-American Flag Act. It was sponsored by Representatives Cortez, Campbell, and others. The bill required all United States and state flag purchases on or after January 1st, 2016 by the state, a county, or municipality for public use to be made in the United States entirely from domestically grown, produced, and manufactured materials. This did pass the Senate and the House, but you were one of the two who voted nay. Can you please explain your vote?
Yes, I voted no because I believe in the free market. I don't believe government should dictate who should buy what products and at what price. And the reason why I believe in a free market is because when you dictate to a state agency that you must buy these American flags, let's say from West Point Pepper Mill, a very great organization, and when that location, that business knows that you must buy it from them instead of, let's say, from Canada. Canada is going to sell the flag to you for $3. This place knows that you must buy it from them, so they're going to increase their price. They're going to sell it to you for $5, maybe $8, because you must buy it from them. Now, the Florida taxpayers are having to pay more for a flag when they could have gotten it somewhere else has the same 13 stripes on it, has the same 50 stars on it that they could have gotten for a lower price. So I believe we should let the free market determine what our prices are. We know that tariffs and price fixing never work. They always hurt the consumer. We should let the market instead determine. Now, my own flag, that when that day comes, the good Lord calls me home, and I'm going to be buried out at Barrancas, and they put a flag over my casket, I'm going to tell my wife, make sure it's an American-made flag. But government should not dictate to people where that flag should come from. Let the market determine that.
Please do not applaud. You can boo, but you can't applaud.
See? I know what Trump feels like now.
Would you like to know what Hillary will feel like? Economic Development, House Bill 1325, Transportation and Economic Development Appropriations Subcommittee is where this bill came out of or went to before it was voted on. Economic development is the state and local communities in partnership improving their investment climate and business environment to enhance competitiveness, retain jobs, create jobs, and improve incomes. The state undertakes economic development through a number of grant, loan, tax refund, and tax credit programs. Some are contained in statute under the following statutes. The bill modifies economic development definitions, processes, and administrations. You voted no. Please explain why.
That is known as the Enterprise Florida Initiative. And originally, I supported that bill. One of the board members of Enterprise Florida came to me and explained to me, Mike, the way this program works is that every dollar we give a company to attract them into Florida, they have to match it 1-to-1. So if we give them 10 million, they have to bring in 10 million. Also, he explained to me that it was a 5-to-1 return on ratio, that whatever we would give them, we were going to get 5 times that amount back. And also, if they were to leave the state before they could not complete their contract of hiring so many people and that return on investment, they had to give our money back. Well, that all sounded good to me. I said, that's a win-win situation. Sure, I'm all for it. Great. Can we put your name on a news release that you're supporting Governor Scott's Enterprise Florida Initiative? I said, absolutely. So that was last fall sometime, and it went out. So we go into session now, and as you come into session, the bill comes before you, you start studying the bill. And what I found was that it was not a 1-to-1 match, that the Florida taxpayers were footing it at 91%. I also found that it was not a 5-to-1 return on ratio, it was 3-to-1, and it was self-reporting by the company. In other words, the fox guarding the hen house. Also found that there was no teeth, that when companies left, and they have left Florida after we gave it to them, that once they left, we had no teeth to get our money back. They would leave, we would say, hey, you broke the contract, we want our money back, and they would say, send us a bill. So when I learned all that, there was no way I could put Florida's taxpayers on the bill for this program, and I voted no for it. And in fact, most of the conservatives in the Florida House voted no for it also. The only way that bill was able to pass were that those who weren't as conservative combined with a number of Democrats, and it passed. However, the incoming Speaker of the House, who was also the Appropriations Chair at the time, one of the good conservatives, zeroed out their funding. So the program is gone. I knew it was going to be gone even before I voted for it, so I voted no because I wanted to save the taxpayers that burden.
The General Appropriations Act of this year, HB 5001, how was your vote on the General Appropriations Act? Did you vote yes or no?
I voted yes. That was our overall budget.
Yes or no? Within this General Appropriations Act, which is to appropriate funds within the Florida system, There's a state university system that totaled $4.7 billion, $2.5 billion of that for general revenue. And then performance-based funding was $500 million. Can you please explain what performance-based funding to the tune of $500 million is in the state university system?
Yes, that budget, $82.3 billion, which was passed this past session, I thought was a very responsible budget. We were able to fund education at its highest level in Florida's history. We were able to set aside $3 billion in reserves. We also did almost $500,000 in tax cuts to our citizens. In fact, over the past 2 years, we've given $1 billion back in tax cuts to our citizens. That does not happen by accident. That's when you have a conservative legislature with a conservative governor making a conscious decision to manage our fiscal policy in a conservative way. And that's why we're able to take care of our citizens and also to give money back to our citizens. Now, what's interesting is that Florida is now the third most populous state in the nation. I'm answering the question, Madam Chair. It's the third most populous state in the nation with 20 million people. We just overtook New York. New York, with the same number of people, their budget that they just passed was $147 billion. So we're almost half of theirs. So your first thought might be, well, they must be providing more for their citizens. And that's not accurate. You look at every metric of which we are measured, Florida is in the top 5 consistently, and number 1 or number 2 in categories such as job creation and returning taxes to its citizens. So again, it's not by mistake that that happens. It's a conservative legislature. That $500 million for education incentive, is that what it was called, Madam Chair?
Performance-based funding within the state universities.
Performance-based funding. That was an incentive to our universities, colleges and universities, to make sure that the graduates, when they graduate, have a job. So it's more than just, okay, you get this 4-year degree, go get them. These colleges and universities now have an incentive that with your degree, we're going to help you find employment. So the more of the graduates that have jobs after graduating, the more incentive that they will receive out of that $500 million, which I think just simply makes sense. That it's not going to school just as a social program to have the experience. It is so that you can become a working member of our society and contribute to it.
You said you believe in the role of the free market, so therefore is it the role of the state via the colleges to find graduates jobs? If they choose to go to a university and take major in an area that does not guarantee them a job, why would that be the state's responsibility via the colleges to ensure that they find one?
Well, that is not the responsibility of private colleges and universities. However, state colleges and universities, state-funded colleges and universities that are receiving taxpayers' money, this would make sure we get a good return on our investment. That we don't want our children just going to college, graduating, and laying out on the beach because they can't find employment. That instead, because it is a state-run institution funded by the state, that the state should help make sure we have good results from that.
Isn't that the student's choice to choose what they take and then to choose if they want to lay on the beach or get a job? I understand the state funded, but doesn't it go back to individual liberties?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Madam Chair. It is the student's choice. The college or university can simply attempt to help them find a job. If they don't want to take a job or they don't like the job that the colleges say, hey, we found one for you, then they have their choice to go somewhere else. However, should they do receive that assistance and get a job, depending on the percentage of students that are graduating and receive a job will depend on the amount of incentives that college would receive. So if they're not able to help them make that choice and the student says, I want to lay on the beach, That's fine. That university just won't receive as much of an incentive as another university or college that was more successful with that.
Isn't that similar to corporate welfare, although it would be educational welfare?
I would have to reject the premise of that question, Madam Chair. I don't see those two being the same.
So the question is, you are using money to incentivize an organization or college to do something that the state wants, taxpayers' dollars.
As compared to, what was the other part of?
Using taxpayers' dollars to incentivize companies to come here and hire people who then might be able to hire the college graduates that will.
Again, the difference is private and state. We have a state-funded college or university from taxpayers, so we should incentivize them to get a good result for the state. A private company should not receive taxpayers' money to incentivize them to provide good results. The market should determine that.
Should then the market not determine what degrees are taken and what areas are studied in college to be successful?
Absolutely, and the market does determine that, because we know that whatever the job market is demanding at that time, whether it's in biomedical engineering, whether it's in computer technology, whether it's in the environment, whatever is being demanded at that time, that's where the university will help the student as they are progressing through their degrees, to let them know these are where the jobs are going to be. You might want to declare your major in that area or work towards that. So they do have an incentive to want to do that, and I think it's good. The market will determine what those are. On the other hand, when there is a private industry, let's say a Hollywood movie studio that wants to come to the state and do their filming, then they should come here knowing that by doing so, they're going to make a profit. It should not be that they're going to come here because we're going to give you money if you come here, and you're going to spend money here, which, by the way, is only temporary. Eventually, it goes back to Hollywood. It doesn't stay here. So, no, we should not be giving them money to attract them into the state. The market should determine whether or not they're going to be successful.
House Bill 25 in 2014 died in committee. When a bill is sponsored and submitted, it goes to a committee first. If it dies in committee, if it doesn't receive a hearing or it gets a no vote, then that's the death of it. That's the short version of how a bill becomes a law. It was, you were accused of not supporting it. That's a bill that prohibited the State Board of Education from continuing to implement the Common Core standards until certain requirements were met. Would you care to explain why you did not sponsor, co-sponsor, or support that bill?
House Bill 25 had to deal with Common Core, and it said that we were going to get rid of the Common Core standards in Florida. Very good bill, which in fact, I am completely against Common Core. Common Core was brought into our state. Thank you. Common Core was brought into our state before I was elected. It came in the session just before I was elected. I was first elected in 2013. My first session was 2014. It was in that 2013 session where Common Core was brought into our state. They called it Florida Standards. I was against it then, and when I came and served, I was still against it. Here's the reality of what happened. Our Speaker of the House believed that those Florida standards were a good thing, and he wanted those to remain in place. Debbie Mayfield, Representative Debbie Mayfield, brought her very good bill, House Bill 25, to the floor or filed that bill to get rid of Common Core. The Speaker of the House made it known to all House members that it was not going to see the light of day because he thought the Florida standards were a good thing. It was not going to see the light of day. It was not going to get a committee hearing. So you had to make a choice then. I had a number of bills that I thought were very important that had to get passed. If you thumb your nose at the speaker on an issue like that and say, I'm sponsoring it anyway, I'm going to co-sponsor it, and I'm going to vote for it should it come to committee, you can guess what's going to happen to your bills. They may not get a committee hearing also. And so since I knew that the bill was not going to see the light of day, and it did not, I did not put my name on there as a co-sponsor. I just thought that was a wise move. Sometimes you have to play the political game to get things done.
I know you're the lead. You're not taking instructions very well. I'm about to kick you out. So maybe go Trump on you. How would you, or do you think that the Florida amendment or the Florida Constitution and the amendment process is the proper format for legislative issues such as the proper care and handling of pregnant pigs, the Florida classroom size, or medical marijuana? And if it is not the area for those legislative issues, how would you change it so that our Constitution is not amended or sought to be amended every election?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. We have two amendments on our ballot coming up for this election cycle. One is Amendment 4, which says that if you put solar panels on your homes, that the property appraiser cannot raise the value of your home and thus increase your taxes. That's a good idea. I like that idea. However, I'm going to vote no for that simply because it does not belong in our Constitution. I've read the Florida Constitution more than once, and it was a pretty good document until about the mid-'80s. And that's when it started being amended with all this nonsense, as you had mentioned, Madam Chair, such as pregnant pigs and so forth. Those things should be taken care of through the legislative process. But what you find typically are outside organizations. When I say outside, they're not even from our state. Because they see it as so easy to amend our Constitution, they'll bring those ideas here, get it passed, and then go to other states and see, Florida's doing it. Florida's a bellwether state. Why aren't we doing it here? So our Constitution is a very important document, and it should only be amended rarely and for big, important issues that affect the entire state, not just one industry, not just a solar industry, where with technology, it's going to be obsolete in the near future anyway. That you won't use solar panels, or the solar panels that we're using now certainly won't be the ones being used. It's going to be something better, different. And so for something that's going to become obsolete, how can that be a part of our Constitution, which is should last for a lifetime or longer? It should go on and on. So I'm voting no for that amendment for that reason, even though I believe that your taxes should not go up because you've made improvements to your house by putting solar panels on it. I'm also going to vote no for medical marijuana that's on the ballot this year. We see the disaster it has caused in other states, including Colorado. We can see now that they are making candy-flavored drinks with marijuana and candies and so forth with marijuana, and little children are being rushed to the emergency room. And the Democrat governor of Colorado has publicly stated, I made a mistake signing that into law. If I had known what these ramifications are, I would have not signed that into law. So again, outside groups know that it's not going to pass through the legislature. The governor is not going to sign that. So they're going to put it on the ballot this way to try and get it done. Now, the Florida legislature a number of years ago tried to make it more difficult to amend our Constitution by changing it from a simple majority, 50% plus one, that now 60% must approve before you can amend our Constitution. So the thought to make it even harder to amend our Constitution, should we make it 65%, 70%? I'm not so sure that that's the way to go, because there can come something that is vitally important, not only to our state, but to the nation, that would need amending. And it's very hard to get even 60% to do something that could really be of benefit. So myself, I don't have an answer at this time. How can we make it so that our Constitution can't be amended so easily? But I would ask some think tanks, such as the James Madison Institute and others, to come up with some ideas of how we can make our Constitution a more sacred document and not change every election cycle.
The United States Constitution has a wonderful model where it would take 2/3 of the House and the Senate and then 3/4 of the state. With regards to amending the Constitution in 2012, the majority of the amendments came from your legislatures. So how can you change that? While you cannot change groups that petition to have the Florida Constitution amended, you can work toward changing how legislatures present amendments, such as in 2012, where the majority of those came from Tallahassee, not from outside interest groups.
Madam Chair, your suggestion that 3/4 must agree, and then 3,
2/3, 2/3, and then 3/4.
I agree. I agree. If we could do something like that with our Florida Constitution, similar to our U.S. Constitution, I think that that is a valid way to go, and that is something that I would be willing to present as a bill should I have the honor of being elected as your next state senator.
Well, and since you're in such an agreeable mood, I'll close on this question and then open it up. Nowhere in the United States Constitution does it state parties. George Washington's farewell address cautioned against the perils of parties. And right now we have a country divided on parties, and representatives and senators, state or federal, who are elected based on what they will do for the party. Would you support sponsoring a bill that would delete party affiliation from the registration ballot and then move Florida toward a jungle primary that has all the candidates for a position on the ballot, with the top 2 winners going to the general election, thus removing party from the equation?
No, I would not support that, and the reason why I would not is because the parties are private entities. The Republican Party, Democrat Party, Libertarian Party, Constitutional Party, those are all private entities. Those are not government agencies. Now, they have become very powerful because of the amount of money that flows into them, but I would not be for removing or allowing private entities to participate in the political process.
I think I misspoke. The voter registration card asks people to identify their party affiliation, to register as a party. By removing that, the primary becomes a jungle primary where all candidates, they may still align themselves with the party, but the party is not the driving force behind the primary, such as the Republican primary and the Democrat primary, because if they're private, then why do we have Democrat and Republican primaries, or a closed state, or an open state? So therefore, by removing that from the electoral process, it puts everybody at a even playing field, and it brings us back to a pure election, if you will.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm not a libertarian, as the premise of your question is suggesting. So, no, I would not be for that for this reason. The parties also have a platform for which they stand, and it makes a big distinction between what you stand for and what you support. There is no way at all I could support a Democrat platform that would boo when you try to include "In God We Trust" in the platform. There is no way that I could support a platform that thinks it is okay to use taxpayers' money to murder children in the womb. But instead, we have a Republican platform that believes in limiting government, that believes in the sanctity of life, that believes in God we trust, And I think seeing that distinction when people go to vote makes a big difference. And I am proud to say that I'm a Republican. I'm also a conservative constitutionalist, and I would want people to know that I'm a Republican when they go to vote on that ballot and not have to guess, I wonder what platform are they associated with when there is no party affiliation there.
Don't throw anything at me, but it also makes it more conducive to a stupid electorate, because then they don't look at the candidates, they just simply look at the party. I will open it up to the floor for questions.
I'm offended.
Okay, you'll be strong.
Okay, I have been disappointed in the way this campaign has been run from the standpoint of stressing negatives as opposed to positives. As I understand, you have been too, to a certain extent. What I would like to know at this juncture is, if you try to rebut what's said, then I heard part of it here already, on the voting, like, why did you tell them you back it and then not back it? We heard you talk about that, and it makes perfectly good sense. You got more information, you voted for it. Okay, are there any other issues that have been slung at you from a negative standpoint that you would like to address or clarify for us today? Because you come across as whiny when you do it in a commercial of your own. But I'm thinking in this room, where we're all kind of friendly and nice, that you might like to tell us why those negatives don't apply.
Okay, did everyone hear the question? The question was that the campaign has turned in a negative way, and that some of the negative issues which have been said about me, I've addressed them based on some of the questions. Are there any other items that have been negative about me that I haven't addressed but would like to address now? Because if you try to rebut it in a commercial or whatever, it sounds like you're whining or coming across in not the proper posture. So the only other one I can think of is he says that I'm against the Second Amendment. I've seen that negative piece about me. You know, I'm an NRA member. I'm a concealed weapons permit carrier. I served in the military. You know, so did my son and my family. So of course I'm not against the Second Amendment. I will say this about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms. I will say this, the Second Amendment only codifies our right to bear arms. We were born with the right. It's an inalienable God-given right to protect yourself, your family, and your property with your arms, and to arm yourself to do that. So, I thought that was inappropriate to say I'm against the Second Amendment when obviously I'm not. Let's say, said I was against Common Core because I didn't sponsor that, and I addressed that one. Said that I'm, what was the other one? Oh, that I don't like the American flag. I'm against the American flag, and I addressed that one. I didn't vote for that because I want the market to determine where you buy your flag from, because that keeps prices down. Let me think of another one. You see, I don't watch TV, so I don't see a lot of those ads. I hear about
The big
them.
one to me, because of my age, is that you were going to do away with Social Security, which I paid my taxes. That was escrowed until '67 when Johnson stole it to balance the budget.
Okay, I hadn't seen that one that it says I will do away with Social Security. You know, I have no authority or power to even touch Social Security at the state level. That's done at the federal level. So, you know, if you, here's the difference between...
Wait a minute, Mr. Hill. I'm talking about that as a constitutionalist, that a lot of people, and there's flyers around for the federal jobs up in D.C., that they're going to do away with Social Security. and the great-grandchildren, it won't be there because it wasn't designed, and it wasn't designed if you go back and read how it was set up. But I paid taxes since I was 11. I got my Social Security form when I was a 11-year-old paper boy, and I paid $9. And I brought that when I went to the office to get that to supplement my meager retirement. And as a military guy, I'm saying that they always said that politics is local. And so I just want to know, how do you personally stand on the Social Security for all this? And the widows of the veterans especially.
Can I interrupt? I know this is probably going to make you angry, but please answer that afterward, because the state does not, it is not a state issue, and the state senators cannot override that law. It is a federal law with regards to the Social Security Act that was passed during the Roosevelt administration. So if we could just keep the questions to state issues, not county issues and not federal issues, but what he would actually deal with as a state senator. And then any other questions, please?
Okay, if I could, Madam Chair, I just want to finish answering this young lady's question about negative ads. It's one thing to submit an ad or to air something that is just outright untrue, doesn't support the Second Amendment, against Common Core, things like that. It's different if you submit an ad that talks about the actual voting record, such as voting to give Florida driver's license to illegal aliens. I didn't do that. The other opponent, the other candidate did vote for that. To vote to give corporate welfare to organizations so that they can build their football stadium in Miami, or so that they can attract Hollywood studios here, or to be a slush fund to attract businesses here with no accountability and no transparency. When you point out a voting record like that, I'm not so sure that that's negative advertising or negative campaigning. I think that is making the constituents aware of what the candidate is voting for so that they can then make an intelligent, informed decision. But it should be truthful of what you're sending out about yourself and about the other candidate. So I hope that answers your question.
Let me let her ask, and then I'll let you ask the question, please.
I have two questions, and they're not meant as a tack, they're meant for clarification so that I can explain what has been said. Did you support funds, scholarship funds for illegal aliens?
No, I did not. The question was, did I support scholarship funds for illegal aliens? And I did not. In fact, I went to the speaker, it was the majority whip, and sat down with her, along with Representative Broxson. We went together. We went together in that office and said, we cannot be with you on this vote. It is not right to give in-state tuition to illegal immigrants. We should instead, which I did vote for, to give in-state tuition to military veterans or active duty military, wherever they would be around the globe. When they take Florida schools, they pay in-state tuition. We voted for that, so no, in no shape or form did I vote for illegal aliens to have in-state tuitions. That was a false attack.
Yeah, I had a second one.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you could address the questions being thrown at you as far as residents of two primary residents, it seems. Yeah, a homestead exemption in Pensacola, but a living arrangement at the condos in Pensacola Beach, allowing you to run for this office. How do you marry up the two residents?
Okay, that was a good question. She asked, how do I have two residences and claim homestead exemption on one and within this district? It's real interesting. You are all going to see a press release come out by our property appraiser, Chris Jones. He's going to release it today, stating that there has been no homestead exemption fraud committed by me in this since I've been elected. So you're going to see that statement come out. He did a thorough investigation and was able to find legal precedent from an attorney, the state attorney general, saying that you can have your homestead exemption and rent from another location. Now, what you cannot do is claim homestead exemption at both, which is not what I'm doing. And as long as you have a spouse and dependent children living at your permanent residence, which I do have, my primary residence is at another location, then that is perfectly legal, it is perfectly legit according to House counsel and according to state law. It is perfectly permissible, and you will see a statement, a press release from the property appraiser stating that today.
Representative Hill, I'd like to make it a little bit more positive in here.
Yes, sir?
I live on Navarre Beach, and we recently just got the beach renourished. And I know that the state contributed over $6 million for that. There's been discussion about the state taking on that as a taxpayer burden for the whole state of Florida to do beach renourishment. I was wondering how you feel about that. Do you think that's a possibility in the future of that happening?
We have with Amendment 1, which was passed last year, which says that 1/3 of all dock stamps collected on the sale or purchase of a home, that 1/3 of that must be towards our environment, towards protecting our waterways, cleaning up our waterways, our coastlines, our Everglades, and our many lakes and rivers. So we have a dedicated source of money each year, which comes to about $250 million each year. And I know that there is also some talk with allocating portions of that for beach renourishment around certain parts around the state. We were fortunate to get it in Navarre this year. I know the folks out in Perdido Key are desperately asking for it also. They have never had a beach renourishment out there yet, even though it's happened more than once in Pensacola, and I'm not sure about Navarre, but more recently in Navarre. But we're going to see that happening around the state, is using those dedicated dollars, those allocated dollars for beach renourishment as it is needed. It's going to be important for me, should I be your state legislator, to make sure that I'm that voice, making sure that we get our share of it up here, and it doesn't all go to Miami or Jacksonville or Campus St. Pete, but that you have someone who can forcefully articulate why we need it here with justification. That's right.
I will take one more question, and then I think we've got some association or some membership.
Mr. Flowers, since you've already asked one, let's let the young lady there who
I was
asked.
just going to ask, why can't they renourish the bay as well as the beach?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and in fact, I'm working with this organization called Eco Technologies. They are phenomenal. They are going to be coming into our area real soon here at Bayou Tahar to clean it up. Now, the current method of trying to clean up our bayous and our bays and so forth when they get polluted from the runoff and the phosphorus and so forth is to go and dredge all that muck out of there, and then you got to put it somewhere. They have learned with their technology that they use microbes to clean it up. And they have demonstrated that they can do that down in West Palm Beach. They just went through a 6-month test there. They have now asked, can they bring it up here? My office met with them and Commissioner Doug Underhill last week about bringing that here. They're going to begin testing in Bayou Tahar here in the very near future, where they use microbes to clean it up. Now that is just smart. That's using technology. Similar to what we're seeing out at the Perdido Key landfill, that we are now going to have 75%, they just opened it up yesterday, the grand opening, 75% of everything that's brought to that landfill is going to be recycled and turned into energy pellets that they sell to Gulf Power for energy. Now that's using technology. I was able to work with ECUA and our county commissioners to bring that to our area. We're not stopping there. My next step is to bring a similar facility to the Rolling Hills landfill. We're going to get rid of landfills in Northwest Florida. I'm hoping throughout the state of Florida, where Florida will become the leader in recycling, smart recycling of our products. By 2020, they're telling us that there will be no waste put in the landfills. Everything from that ice cream and that cake that you didn't finish is all going to be recycled. From construction and demolition debris, it will all be recycled by 2020, and Northwest Florida is leading that way.
The gentleman in the blue.
Thank you. Representative Hill, thank you. I'm a small business owner here in Santa Rosa County. Many of us are small business owners here in Santa Rosa County. Many of my family members are small business owners here in Santa Rosa County. You're a small business owner. What are you going to do as senator to help make small business owners have better opportunities for success? We know that small business owners are the drivers of jobs. We know that small business owners are the drivers of our economy. And we know that for us to continue to grow and be successful, small businesses need to be successful. So what's on your agenda to help folks like me be more successful and have less state of Florida in the mix, if you will?
That's an excellent question, and that allows me to explain why I came running in that door at 12:01. I was in Milton speaking with a business owner. He's a manufacturer, has a very large business. He does work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and he wanted to talk to me about a recent decision made by a judge which is going to cause worker comp rates to go up by 15% in the state of Florida. Now, this young man has a business with a payroll of $1.5 million. Now, you talk about a 15% increase on that, that is a lot of money. So what we have to do as a legislature is we need to go back, because we've been down this route before where worker comp rates were too high. It was causing businesses to have to shut down, to lay off employees. So what I'm going to do is go back, sponsor legislation to make sure we roll back that poor decision that was made by that judge to get those worker comp rates back down where they need to be. Not only that, but every time I talk to a business owner, almost everyone, I bet if I asked you the question, you would say the same thing. What would you want out of your government? The answer is always, leave us alone. Just get out of the way. So what I would see to help businesses is, number one, continue to lower taxes. We have a corporate tax rate which I believe is too high in Florida. I know Governor Rick Scott, when he first came into office back in 2010, he said he wanted to get that corporate tax rate to zero in 7 years. And we haven't been able to do that. I want to pick up that mantle and start fighting to get that corporate tax rate down to zero. Can you imagine a zero corporate tax rate, a zero state personal income tax rate in Florida, of what companies would come here, what businesses would come here, people would have jobs. We would be not only the destination state in the nation, which we already are, from around the world people would want to come to Florida, and we would be the state. The thing is, we have to make sure we have to keep it conservative so it does not turn into a California or a New York. We have to make sure we keep it conservative. So what I would do is continue to lower taxes, continue to get rid of unnecessary regulations which hamper your business. Let me give you another specific example of a tax that I'm going to fight to remove. Florida is the only state in the nation that has a corporate rental lease tax. In other words, if a business moves into the state and they are leasing a building, they have to pay taxes on that. We're the only state in the nation that does that. It's 6%. I would like to sponsor legislation to see that go to zero, perhaps over a 6-year period, perhaps over a 3-year period. The pushback that we get from the other side is that, Mike, that's $1 billion coming into our revenue. And what I tried to help them understand, liberals can't seem to get this. that when you lower taxes, it means more revenue to the state. Why? Because more businesses come here, they hire more people, there's more employees, and of course they are taxed on their earnings and so forth. Not on their earnings, but there's taxes on that. So they can't see that. They can't see that the lower you make taxes, the more our general revenue increases. It's called the Laffer curve by Arthur Laffer, who was an economist on the Ronald Reagan staff, who is also right now working with Donald Trump. So we're going to see those taxes go back down again because Donald Trump has surrounded himself with smart people. And then if I may, just one more area is Florida made permanent that there would be no taxes on a purchase of manufacturing equipment. So I went and spoke with our folks up at the paper mill and said, what would it mean to you if you did not pay taxes on manufacturing equipment parts? Because they don't always need to replace an entire drum. A farmer doesn't always need to replace an entire combine, but parts on it they do. The paper mill said that would mean millions of dollars in savings. Now, can you imagine how many more people they could hire, how they could expand their business, how they could do more research and development if they didn't have to pay those millions to the state? And I don't want to hear it from the other side saying, Mike, we can't afford $1 billion cut in our budget. Out of $82.3 billion, and just 2 years ago it was $79 billion, you can't tell me that $1 billion we could take out, put it back in the economy, watch commerce make that grow. That's a good return on investment. We'll get more than $1 billion back.
If we got rid of performance-based funding, that'd be half of it. All right, so
They will get more companies making flags in America too.
I'll turn it back over. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your time.
May I do closing comments, Madam Chair? I'll make it brief. These are my closing comments. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon if I can. I do not seek to have the government look after me. I prefer the challenges of life, to fail and to succeed. I prefer, instead, to have the challenges of life instead of the stale calm of utopia. That creed was first published in 1952 by Dean Alfang, and 4 years later, it is more appropriate now. 4 years later, it's now appropriate now. That is what it means to be an American. That is what it means to be a conservative, constitutionalist, Republican American, and that's why I am one. Thank you all for being here. God bless you, and God bless America, land that I love.